What up? It's your boy Nick Incredible Man. Yes, I am back at it again, and this is Now in One, Season 5, Episode 7, Ghost Stories. I kind of just feel like everybody's running around chasing ghosts. Let's talk about it, man.
Yo, fight until you make it, yo, don't think it, no, just take it. Don't wait for someone to break it, take control, then don't just fake it. Hey, you can make it happen, you just gotta take some action. Take the ship and be the captain.
If I'm being honest, I initially didn't think I would enjoy this episode while watching it, but after the whole entire episode was over, kind of just reminiscing on the episode before I sat down to do my review, thinking about it, I really enjoyed this episode. The ending was just top notch for me. I loved the ending, but the overall episode was so much more than I gave it credit for while watching it in the very beginning. There was one case this entire episode. The one particular case kind of just ran over into the entire episode while we're dealing with a lot of personal issues for some of our main stars. The case was this dude ended up being buried alive. May ended up being the 911 operator to answer the call, and then the 118 came to try to save him. And that was the one particular case. We see Taylor is the reporter on the scene, and Detective Ransone is back. He still has a scar, but Detective Ransone is back. I actually really enjoyed seeing Detective Ransone this episode, and I feel like it was a highlight, if you will, because we know that Athena's not a detective, but she does a lot of detective work. And her being a police officer and a sergeant, she's the main one that we kind of focus on when it comes to law enforcement on the show in particular. We see other cops as well, but everything pretty much revolves around her when we're dealing with certain aspects of the law. And it was nice to have Detective Ransone back and him kind of riding shotgun and Athena assisting him this episode, which definitely heavily played into the entire episode towards the ending of it. But he's the detective on scene and on the case, as you will. And the dude was buried alive. May helped him and, told him to scream, and everybody saved him. But this particular dude, now, watching this whole entire case, I was like, well, he got carjacked. He got buried alive, but they left his phone on him so, he could call someone. I didn't see that working out. But as the story progressed, we see that it was just so much more to it, man. I thought it was going to be straight, plain and simple. But when Detective Ransone went to interview this guy, man, he's giving all these lies, spouting all this other nonsense he can't remember, while, talking about his wife and everything. She's on a trip in Alaska. It's a bunch of foolery. But Taylor starts to feel like he's lying. Detective Ransone starts to feel like he's lying. And as the episode progressed, we see both of them kind of doing their own investigation. And we see that both of them come to the consensus that one or the other had done it. Ransone thought the husband done it, and Taylor thought the wife done it. And turns out they were both right. It was weird. And I guess trying to figure all that out is kind of what made me kind of go wonky about the episode. But seeing the overall thing play out, dude, to be fair, I couldn't have never guessed how that entire storyline was gonna go. And I would have never seen that in a million years, how that particular storyline was gonna play out like that. I normally guess some stuff, but that wasn't even on my radar. That the husband tried to kill the wife by hiring a dude that worked at the hardware store. The hardware store dude started stalking the wife, fell in love with the wife, told the wife that the husband wanted to kill her. The wife decided to hire the dude to kill the husband, paying him off with sex. It was a lot of foolery, but I could have never imagined that in 1,000 years, man. So at the end of the day, they both went to jail, but this also kind of tied into something's going on with Taylor, because at the end of the episode, we see that Buck is kind of just laying into Taylor. It was well, I get that you want to do journalism and you want to report the news, but putting your life on the line, that's something that you didn't really have to do. And as the episode ends, we see that she's looking up something on her computer, and it's something to do with a doctor that pleads innocent in a murder trial. And I'm assuming that has something to do that's affecting Taylor, and that's why she's so adamant about finding out the truth and reporting on the truth. And I feel like that'll definitely come into play later in the season, but they kind of just teased us with it to give us a little bit of oomph to be well, I wonder what's going on with Taylor. I'm intrigued about it though, by the way. Chimney this episode. Chimney is still searching for Maddie, and after Buck's phone call, he kind of feel like Buck told him that she may be in Boston because he heard these particular bells from when she lived in Boston, dealing with Doug and all this other stuff. But Hen also tells Chimney that, that same kind of church. There's a branch of that church that's there in California as well. But Chimney, you know, he's already halfway to Boston anyway, so he continues on his trip. And he comes in contact with Eli, you know, one of the firefighters, paramedics that he met, well, that we seen in a flashback from when Chimney first joined the 118. And I think that was a nice consensus to have, but it also gave Chimney somebody to really just give him a shoulder to talk to, because Eli really spit some wisdom towards Chimney this episode, you know, telling him that, you know, Maddie's going through a lot of stuff, and you cleaning yourself up, just being there when she needs you, will speak volumes instead of trying to look tore down and ran over while chasing her. You know, you're going to confirm everything that she's going through because she's dealing with postpartum. You're just kind of shedding light on everything that, you know, the doubt that she's dealing with if you show up in this state. So it was nice for Chimney to have someone to confide in, because he can confide in Hen, but like Eli gave him a different perspective, if you will, because Eli doesn't really get the whole overall story of what Chimney's dealing with in his personal life and his work life and everything, but he knows enough about his personal life and everything that's dealing with Maddie to give him some insight that the others haven't been able to give him. And I think that was a nice moment for Chimney, and he got to save a baby while being in Boston. You know, that was a nice little side note. The best parts about this episode, to be fair for me, like I love the whole Taylor and Ransone bantering back and forth and them both trying to solve the case. I love, you know, Chimney having that shoulder and that confidant in Eli. But the best parts for this entire episode for me was Harry. I mean, I want to say it's PTSD, but like it can't be PTSD. It's just like some triggers or something, right? Because everywhere he goes, he sees Jeffrey. Like, he's not seeing him when he sleeps, he's seeing him while he's wide awake, where he's just like it's messing with his focus like drastically. And we saw that, you know, him searching up about Athena and Jeffrey at the same time on this particular website, and Michael was a little worried, so, you know, he sent the computer to his therapist as well, you know, along with Harry, to see if they can kind of solve what's going on with him. And he was like, nobody gets it, you know, like nobody really understands, and he feels like he can't talk to them about it because, as we learn about later in the episode, May is trying to get Michael to, you know, sure, everybody's talking to therapists, but nobody's talking to each other, and that's the point she's trying to get across to Michael, and Michael just isn't having it. But that's the same thing that Harry's saying. Like, sure, he could talk to his therapist and everything, but he want to talk to it with his family because they don't get it, and he wants to explain it to them, and kind of hopefully that'll ease some of the stress that's on him. But Michael just isn't having it. But this entire episode, we see that Harry's dealing with some stuff, man. And at the end of the day, we see that he goes to the house that he was held captive in, and he goes in there, I guess, to kind of maybe confront his ghost, because, you know, with the title of the episode, and he goes to confront the ghost of him being kidnapped in Jeffrey, if you will. And while there, he gets hurt. He falls through the floor, and he kind of just like dislocates his shoulder or his elbow or something. And in that instant, he called Athena. Now, Ransone went with Athena to help him and everything. And we see that him and Ransone kind of made a connection, because both of them, you know, kind of had their lives upended and just ruined by Jeffrey. So I feel like him having that connection in that moment with Ransone was the best possible thing that 911 could have done. And that just overshot the entire episode for me. All of the other stuff, like I said, wasn't really feeling the episode, but like towards the end, it kind of just really grew on me, and then it kind of just brought everything together. And that moment with him and Ransone just having a conversation, because to be fair, they're the only two that can really understand. Athena can get it, but then she can't get it. You know what I'm saying? Because he attacked her, but it's not the same, if you will. You know, like, she got hurt up and beat up and bruised and stuff, but, you know, Ransone and Harry went through something just a little bit different than what Athena went through. And them being two men, you know, well, Harry's a kid, but, you know, them being two men, they can kind of relate to each other a little bit, and that allowed him to open up to Athena to go back home, and then open up to his entire family. And I thought that was just a nice segment. It ended the episode wonderfully, but it really just gave us something with Harry, because I love how we got to see Harry dealing with all this stuff, and it wasn't just wham bam, he's over it. You know, it's like, it's something that's gonna stick with him and it's gonna be ingrained in him, but he can't allow it to take over his life, and now he's starting to finally deal with it. I think that's everything. Oh no, Hen this episode, man, she's dealing with some stuff with Eva, however you want to say her name. Anyway, Denny's birth mother, and I get her wanting to apologize to Hen because, you know, she used Hen so much, she hurt Hen so much, and her getting her life together and trying to move forward, and she's moving. She's not even trying to, you know, take custody of Denny or anything, but Hen has just been so hurt by her that she can't, you know, she's kind of just blinded and got blinders on. She wants to believe her, like she wholeheartedly wants to believe her, but she knows that it's such heartbreak dealing with her, and if she even gives her like the sliver of a chance, you know, like, well, she may take that chance and run with it. But Karen wasn't having none of it. Karen didn't want to believe her at all until they actually sat down and had an actual conversation, and that kind of gave Karen some, well, maybe made Karen a little hopeful, and, you know, kind of just relieved, because she was mad at Hen for a minute, man. In this episode, she was mad at Hen, and after her conversation with Eva, you know, that allowed her to really just forgive Hen and kind of just get rid of Ava from their lives and focus on their family. And I feel like that's a right step in the right direction, because, to be fair, they haven't showed this chick in a minute, man. And I know that, you know, she was on drugs and stuff, but they haven't showed her for a minute. So to be fair, I guess it's kind of good that she's gone. I mean, she was never really a mother to Denny anyway, and I don't want to be rude about it, but I mean, let's just let that die down, and then, like, after, once you get your life back together, maybe you can come in and we'll try to deal with some stuff then. But overall, like I said, like, it started off a little weird to me, but like, as the episode progressed and after I actually finished everything, it turned out to be a pretty decent episode, especially with the Harry, Athena, and Ransome stuff. That was just a nice little chunk of the pie that we got out of this episode, man. This is What Incredible. Don't forget to smash the like button till you can't smash any more. Comment down below, and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them, and subscribe, but only if you really want to, man. Peace out.
I cannot complain.